Good afternoon, this is your captain speaking.
Down at the airport with Airport Director Gary Cobb. You've been in about 6 weeks now, and first of all, how are you finding it? How are you finding the island?
Yeah, so living on the island, so currently located in Ramsey, so got a nice commute in the morning. In terms of the airport, great staff, really good facilities, and everybody I meet's really keen on the airport being a success, so getting all the support that I think I need.
And in terms of just overall, how you find the airport? In terms of, is it what you expected? Is it?
Yeah, so the airport's exactly what I knew that I was walking into. So a couple of challenges, but a really good team that are doing quite a lot of work to fix. So it's one where, and I think I've said it before, I think sometimes the team get an unfair amount of criticism compared to the hard work and going above and beyond that they actually do.
And when you came in, first of all, you said you were going to meet the passengers going through the departure lounge. Have you been able to do that so far? What they've been saying to you?
Yeah, so I've had quite a few. I've done where I've met in the departure lounge, met staff, and met lots of other people. In terms of departure lounge, an interesting mix of comments. So two types of passengers that we typically see: locals and then the tourists. In terms of just having a look at the tourists, think it's a lovely airport. They think it's nice, quick, clean, efficient. They're really happy with it. They've got minor changes that they like to see, so different things in the shop, another thing in Costa. So you can understand, and that's all feedback that we're taking away, having a look and trying to put it into the master plan. In terms of the locals, a lot of that has been around routes. So what routes do we fly? What routes can we fly to? And timings of flights, etc., which was really good. A big one that came through quite a lot was Belfast whilst we were there. And again, that's been quite useful. So with the announcement of Flybe doing Belfast to Isle of Man, that and being city as well, filled the hole that whilst EasyJet fly there typically on the Friday and the Monday, having something that was almost daily was very useful to them.
Well, that is something that came to us very quickly, actually, with the new route that Flybe announced. They've going into Belfast, but also into Heathrow, which is sort of like a route which the island seems to spend years clamouring for, and now we've got two flights going into the same airport. Is that anything that the airport itself has much of a role in, or is that Flybe's in and go, here's what we want to do? How does that process come about?
Yeah, so in terms of policy decisions for how you do flights, we're open skies, which means that we facilitate anything that the airlines want to do. So Flybe wanted to do Belfast, Isle of Man, Heathrow. So we can't really refuse that. And again, we probably don't want to refuse that. It's a good air link into Heathrow. Now we have to make sure that we don't oversaturate routes, and works ongoing of what can we do to prevent oversaturation of routes. And we have commercial levers that we can pull. However, Flybe think that route will have a really good uptake. So yeah, we wish them really good luck.
So obviously, like you said, routes again, sort of key topic in the sense for a lot of people locally. Is there something else that you probably won't be able to take much further down the pipeline, but you're expecting to see more things come up going forward?
So speak to the airlines fairly frequently. We have some good conversations. Some of that's around existing routes that can be problematic and cause quite a lot of upset in the community. And then the other ones is what they're thinking of doing and what they can potentially do. So in terms of routes, I don't think we'll see very many international routes, although we've got the routes that we see to Tenerife, etc., expanding, so being bigger, running for longer during the summer months next year. And I think announcements went out on that last week. In terms of pure international scheduled routes, none of the airlines are really interested. Brexit's made it a little bit difficult. So we did have talk of potentially doing some European routes landing here and then going on to other routes in the UK. But with Brexit, we would be their first port of entry into UK common travel area, so therefore you'd have to take them all off, screen them, and put them back on, which isn't what somebody, if they were flying from Amsterdam to Aberdeen, would really want to do. So we've seen some of the routes that were potential to us go away, but in terms of the further international routes, the airlines see as more kind of fitting into the domestic market and then going into the big hubs, so Gatwick, Heathrow, Dublin, and then going on from there.
And obviously, one topic which predates you coming in and probably predated predecessors coming in is this thing about the airport and lights and everything. Now, you've sort of explained us using your chart there. Just give us a very sort of brief version of why what we have here is actually what we need and why realistically we can't go
Yeah, so low visibility is a really complex subject. So for those that are listening that are technical experts, I'll probably be using relatively imprecise terms, which can upset some of the purists. But in terms of low visibility and fog, airports manage that by having instrument landing systems, which we call ILS, and you have different categories depending on the severity of the fog. So for a Gatwick and a Heathrow, they will have an ILS Cat 3B, and that allows you to pretty much land to 50 feet, which if you're coming down there, there's no real stopping, so the aircraft will auto land itself and stop. In terms of the level of precision that you want on that approach, which is what the ILS does, you then have to start to protect and do additional stuff around to be able to do it. In terms of runway, we have just using our main runway, so 2608, that's ILS, and it goes to Category 1. So it's the same as Jersey, Shetland, Orkney, lots of other island communities, and it allows us to land in a certain element of fog, but there will be situations where it's too foggy for us to be able to land. In terms of the requirements for doing that, in one of our runway directions, the aircraft are coming in at greater than 3 degrees, 3.5 degrees, which precludes doing anything greater than the Cat 1 ILS that we've got. There is work that we can do on the other side of the ILS, so people talk about lights. However, in terms of those lights, where the lights currently end, there's a shelf into the Irish Sea, and there's quite a big drop. So for us to be able to fix those lights to allow us to then do more work to go to a greater instrument landing system, you're probably talking into the tens of millions, which if you compare that to the amount of days of fog, it's probably not worth it. If you could do both runways, there's probably more of an argument to have it, but just having one runway being able to land in different minima to the other runway means that should an aircraft take off and then the wind direction change, whilst it could have landed, it's now landing on a different end of the runway which can't have it. So it makes it really, really problematic, really, really complicated. So it's not as easy as just put lights at the end of the runway and you can fix it. There's a lot more technical stuff that we have to go through to be able to do that. And we are doing work, and that technology is growing as we speak, and there's ways of doing with routes into the sky, so how you build some of the airspace to do it, and also some of the future stuff which we can have a look at, but we're a long way away from that. And for the amount of days that you lose to fog, which I know is a route off the airport, it's quite problematic in terms of the cost that it would have to be in the tens of millions just to fix that.
It's just I suppose priorities, really, isn't it? It's financial reality of government. Just in terms of your time here, I know you're only 6 weeks into the job, and it's a bit thing to look ahead almost, but what would you want to look at back in a year and say we've succeeded in this? Do you have any goals that you've set yourself in the short to medium term?
So I think a lot of the goals will be around planning, so conscious choices that we make for the airport going forward. So what do we want it to look like? What assets do we need? This isn't to grow, people say Heathrow on the sea and all of that. This isn't what's realistic for the airport to be. What kind of assets do we need? What kind of experience do we want to be for our passengers? And then start to build plans and get buy-in for doing that. So probably after a year, that will be to get that agreed and consulted with, probably with the public, and then start to enact what we're going to do. Hopefully people will continue to see good customer service, nice short queues, and if we can get the airlines to have a little bit more stability in terms of consistency of routes, that would be good. But again, a lot of that consistency of the airline schedule is the wide ramifications for the industry, which seem to be calming down. But again, it's one where industry will take a couple of years, I think, to get over the pandemic.
And just finally, another big topic before you came in was the parking. Where are we up to?
So parking, so we still have Ringo, and the team, we're reviewing all of that. We're having a look at how it's gone, and then we'll start to look to make decisions. But we're not going to make any quick decisions. We'll get the data, we'll get the facts, and then we'll see. I know that the majority of people use it and actually don't mind it. So one of the things that we did have in the lounge was we saw a big upset in terms of social media, in terms of Ringo, but we've used it and it's actually quite easy. Several of them wanted it almost extending across the island because then they can swap their hours that they've got for the airport to then go to Douglas when they do it. And then occasionally you have some people who have a natural mistrust of technology apps. And again, some of that's education and how we can cater for that.
Great. Well, Scott, thank you, and good luck for your time here.
Thank you very much.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.